Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of How to Achieve Better Straight-Through Processing Using AP Essentials. My name's Emily Nash-Walker, and I'm the product manager of Invoice Automation here at Tungsten.
And my name is Garry Benjoya, and I am part of the sales overlay organization supporting InvoiceAgility.
Thank you so much, Garry, for joining me. We've recorded a few of these podcasts so far, and I'm excited to record this one with you.
What are some of the previous ones we've done? I'm aware of this one we're going to do today, but what are some of the other ones we've done?
Oh, that's a great question. So we have had a great introduction with Joe Olson, who has taken, hopefully, our listeners through what some of the goals of the Tungsten Tech Talk are. Matthias Reichler and I recorded an introduction into straight-through processing. What is straight-through processing? And really demystifying it a bit. And then we've also had Ethan Shackle and David Grundell record ways to actually update your configuration so you can see better straight-through processing, and then what are the ways you can validate it. So I think we've had some really good conversations on what straight-through processing is and how to achieve it.
Yeah, those sound great.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about how we're going to get better straight-through processing with AP Essentials and really what's coming up next. So we've talked about ways to configure the system, what it is. Now, how do we keep our straight-through processing quite high? What is good with invoices? And how can we really look to the future and make sure that we continue to stay with high rates of straight-through processing? So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Great. Looking forward to this.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess maybe we can start off with kind of a benchmark. Now that we've talked about high straight-through processing, everybody wants touchless invoicing. We talked about it in the previous episodes, but one of the things that I think we can realistically say is that we want those invoices, at least 95% of them, to go straight through the system. When you OCR a piece of paper or you get that PDF, and it's processed through AP Essentials or any OCR technology. I mean, I think that's what my expectations are. I mean, Garry, what are you hearing from the field?
Yeah, honestly, with all the customers we talk about, it's amazing to see how many large organizations are still so manual and have so many touch points. And as a result of COVID and the years after COVID, a lot of them are really trying to find out how can we reduce the touch points, make our teams much more strategic, less tactical, build better supplier relationships, and get the invoices through the process much quicker. So
Yeah,
that's
no,
definitely something we hear almost on a daily call.
I definitely understand. And I think that it's funny when I speak with customers, they either tell me that they're very manual and they have expectations to go very automated very quickly, or they aren't really sure what to expect. And so it's either one extreme or the other. And I think there are different ways that we can help set expectations as well with customers as they really achieve and go down that journey about what straight through processing is and how to expect to get up towards of that 95% plus.
Yeah, and really everyone has a different viewpoint of what straight through processing really is and where those touch points lie. So it's really important as we talk to our customers to really understand how they view straight through processing and then understand the bottlenecks, because the bottlenecks could be anywhere in that entire journey of the invoice, from ingestion all the way to payment.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that I want to spend some time on are ways that we are improving and updating the solution. I mean, it's a great solution. AP Essentials, we process 120 million invoices. And if you are listening to this podcast and you use one of our other solutions, such as ReadSoft Invoices or KCKT with Invoice Add-on Pack, those are also great solutions, which also have a very high user base and a large number of invoices processed through them. But how can you really take a look at achieving that 95% plus straight through processing? And it's really through technology, I think.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so let's talk about some ways that we're improving and I keep using the word improving, and I really should say instead we're changing the product to really have that straight through processing really raised significantly. Although some listening to this may say improving, so I think as long as we've we've got everybody following along. I think we can definitely agree to that. So what we're going to talk about now is we're really going to talk about ways that we have enhanced AP Essentials to really meet our customers where they are, with the expectation that they really want that 95% straight through processing or touchless invoicing. So what I've shared out with everybody who's watching this podcast, and hopefully for those who are just listening, you'll go to our website and there are some downloads that you can actually get from this podcast. And this is one of them. And it's really how you can unlock the power of fully touchless accounts payable. And so one of the things that you'll see here is just some subtle branding changes. And so Garry, maybe you can talk a little bit about how AP Essentials fits into Invoice Agility. Maybe we can start there just to navigate this audience that is listening to an AP Essentials podcast, and all of a sudden we've switched and we're talking about Invoice Agility. So what is Invoice Agility?
So Invoice Agility, what it really is, in its very simple form, is the ability to be able to ingest invoices in any format from anywhere globally into a system for processing, whether that invoice comes in through paper, PDF, or in a structured data file. So it allows us to process that invoice, process it with business rules, process it with compliance, if there's country compliance mandates that are required, and get that invoice into your backend system, whatever that system might be, because Invoice Agility is agnostic to the destination as to where the data file is going to be delivered to. So whether you're an SAP shop, an Oracle shop, Microsoft Dynamics, regardless of what backend system you've deployed, we convert that data file and get that into your system without
Yep.
any effort on your part.
Well, that sounds really great because one of the things that I spoke with Matthias on an earlier episode is about getting data. And one of the challenges is about getting the data. So I think anything that we can do to help our customers access data faster is probably really going to help with touchless invoicing and really that touchless processing or that straight through processing.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the primary goals of Invoice Agility is to make this as easy as it possibly can be for our customers and really for our suppliers as well, for our customer suppliers, that is. We want to make it easy for them to get us the file and easy for us to get it to them without them having to deploy a lot of IT resources to do a lot of configuration, mapping, and so forth to get those files ingested. We want those files to be delivered to them that are clean invoices ready for payment versus having invoice files come in that have a lot of exceptions and a lot of extra process that causes straight through processing rates to drop, to very low levels.
Excellent. So let's talk about some of the ways that we've added to AP Essentials and Invoice Agility and ways that we can really help with that straight through processing. I think the first two that are two bullets on this particular slide, enhanced OCR accuracy. So as we spoke about in one of the previous episodes, it's, straight through processing really is about that OCR accuracy, making sure the data from the invoice is accurate and correct if that invoice is being received in paper or PDF. And so by enhancing that OCR accuracy and improving the OCR technology, that really allows for not that 95% plus, to 99% accurate information on the first time. And I'm really excited that we have enhanced that technology to make sure that when one of our customers scans an invoice or gets that PDF that is 99% accurate, between 95 to 99% accurate the first time that invoice is read. And I think that's really, really important. And one of the things that's even noted here is the handwriting. So, Garry, do you see a lot of customers that come to you asking for handwriting, and what does that do to straight through processing?
That has been an actual bigger issue than I ever thought it would be. We have a number of customers that, at the dock, they're making handwritten notes on these invoices and then they want those ingested. And the problem is obviously most OCR engines today have a really difficult time, as one can imagine, picking up a variety of different handwriting techniques. My handwriting looks like a horrible doctor's handwriting. You would never be able to read what I wrote on an invoice. But technology has come a long way now where we can actually start reading handwritten notes, understand what it says, and be able to get that into the data payload that goes through to your backend system.
That's really, yeah, that's really, really important. So the next item that I want to talk a little bit about is an invoice document library. So this is something that sounds on a high level like an invoice is an invoice, but we know that's not really true. And there's a lot of different documents related to invoices, aren't there?
Yeah, there's every industry has their own types of invoices, especially when you get into freight invoices, healthcare invoices. There's a huge variety, and even within industry, there's a lot of derivatives of those invoices that are out there. So having a document library, sometimes called a canonical library, having a library of invoices will make it far easier for systems to be able to capture those on first pass.
And also, there's documents related to invoices too. So if I want to do two and three-way matching, I need goods receipt, I need POs, I might have a utility invoice, I might have some other, I'll say tangentially related documents to that invoice that are really, I need to process that invoice for my business either. And maybe I do four and five-way matching. And so really capturing all of those documents as quickly as possible in a straight through process is really, really important. So that I think is really, I think something that I'm excited about too, because if I can capture that data and I can capture it better and faster, and I can recognize that document the first time, that's going to go straight through. I know how to route it because I can put the business rules associated to it. Ah, speaking of business rules, custom validation rules. So it's like it was set up like this, Gary.
Amazing how that happens.
Exactly, exactly. So I know one of the things that we talk a lot about, we're here based, you and I are based both in the United States, and each state has different taxes. So how have you seen ways that customers have shared with you either maybe different taxes within the different states or even within different countries? How has that posed challenges on validation rules that customers have shared with you?
Well, obviously, in other countries, it's a major issue. All over the globe, we have clearance mandates coming out. Change even when they come out, they're constantly changing. When they're announced, their dates change. What they require for their tax validation rules are all different. They require different fields that, in many cases, have nothing to do with your business, but are very important to the government. And companies are really trying to even start deploying individuals to manage all that versus allowing organizations like Tungsten Automation, for example, manage that process for them. For instance, at Tungsten, we have a dedicated compliance team that does nothing but wake up every day and go to bed every night, and in between that time, manage all the validation rules that are happening, all the compliance regulations coming out across the globe to make sure that our customers are taken care of. We're hearing a lot of confusion. It's there. You get the regulations that come out, and our clients try and read them and understand them, and they have a very difficult time making heads or tails of what actually is being released. And do they have to follow those rules? Even something as simple as the German, I don't want to call it mandate, but regulation, rule, whatever you want to call it. Something that I think is very simple to understand. Most of our clients are very confused by it. Now when we get our customers accustomed to the fact that we do this as a managed service for them, they don't have to spend resources and time managing that. We can do that on behalf of our clients and manage all that process so they can focus on things that are more core to their business and not worry about all the tax rules, whether it's state, local, or international.
I think that's really a great segue into some of our e-invoicing. But before we go into maybe talking a little bit about we get the data faster with e-invoicing, I just want to just double click on one of the things that you mentioned because you're absolutely right. There's a lot of different tax laws out there internationally. So if I'm an international company and I work in even just three or four countries, I may have to deal with, well, no, I do have to deal with their taxes. Not I may, but I do, as well as I personally live in New Hampshire. We don't have a state tax, but right
You're
across
lucky.
the I I am. Although you make your own luck. Um, right across the border from me is Massachusetts that has a state tax, and often many of their cities have city taxes. So if my husband owned a company, and so therefore when he did business in Massachusetts, he had to respond to those taxes. Those would be applicable in those custom validation rules to make sure I could process those invoices. But that country specific compliance is really, really important as well that you just mentioned. And I think those hand in hand enhancing Invoice Agility and AP Essentials with the ability to not only have the purpose-driven country compliance needs that you just mentioned, but then where I have those very specific use cases that I can apply those custom validation rules for those invoices that come in. Because at the end of the day, you and I both know that paper is not going away. We're always going to have the paper invoices because the person who cuts the grass or delivers the pop or delivers the uniforms for my business and that long tail, those can always be paper, but those country specific compliance rules, as you just mentioned, are going to be important. And sometimes they're both. Making sure you can apply both of those really helps that straight through processing because that invoice comes in, I see that where it's come from, I can tell some information about that invoice because I've got the high accuracy, so I can create some predetermined rules based on that, and then it can be routed appropriately. So I think that's really key, that automatic delivery of an invoice to the correct place, either through I match it and it goes through all of my validations, or it stops and maybe needs to be adjudicated at some point because there's something that should be looked at. But I've got a small number of those invoices that stop. So let's talk about those country specific compliance rules because you mentioned that we had an entire compliance team. I think that one of the things that is unique about Invoice Agility is the fact that not only do we recognize that customers are going to get those paper invoices, but you mentioned earlier those e-invoicing. So what are some of the benefits to e-invoicing when you get straight through processing? When you talk about straight through processing.
Yeah, so let's, first for some of our listeners, I mean, you want to define e-invoicing because even on a call this morning, I had someone using the term e-invoicing as it related to a PDF. And while a PDF is certainly an electronic document, it's not e-invoicing. E-invoicing really starts as a structured data file. It's a data file full of invoice information. It's not a legal artifact at that point. It's not a legal document. It's not an invoice, just a data file with invoice fields in it. So e-invoicing, one of some of the biggest benefits of e-invoicing is number one, you eliminate capture. Now, just like paper's not going away, just like EDI didn't go away as much as back in 2000, myself and everyone else I worked with thought EDI would be gone long by now. OCR is not going anywhere either, which is
No.
one of the reasons why invoice agility is so powerful because we recognize that and we want to make sure we can take any invoice regardless of format. But the more we can reduce the reliance on capture and deal with structured data, the more accurate our first time passes will be on top of that. And the more we can actually do with the data when it comes in, the more we can compare and contrast, the more we can apply business specific rules to that data. That could be our customers specific rules that have nothing to do with country compliance. The more we can enrich that invoice with information from purchase orders. So there's a lot we can do with structured data that we can't do with a PDF because a PDF is already a legal document. It's already a legal invoice. So when we get that document as a structured data file and it's ready, it needs to go through a compliance engine, we can validate that data file before we submit it to the government to make sure it has the highest chance of getting the proper stamps and authorizations from that government when we do ultimately submit it on behalf of our suppliers and our customers.
So we've got a lot that's coming at our customers right now. We have paper invoices. We want to make sure that those flow through as quickly as possible. We've got perhaps different countries, excuse me, that our customers are in that we want to make sure that those stops are as fast as possible. Because at the end of the day, really, when it comes right down to it, is that that customer wants that invoice entered into their system as fast as possible so that way they can make sure that those payment terms are then taken advantage of. Maybe they want to pay the invoice before the terms and take some discounts, and the supplier wants to get paid as fast as possible, of course, as well. So, I mean, that's a lot. You know, one of the things that I thought was interesting as well is that from a overall coverage perspective, we process invoices in over 140 countries. So that is, I mean, pretty significant. I know I've been in this field for about, oh gosh, 20 years. Every time I say it, it makes me feel old. But that is something that over the course, especially of the last 5 or 6 years, as we have more and more countries that are getting into the clearance and specific use case needs, that's a lot of countries that we can process invoices in.
That's a
And I
lot.
think that that's, yeah, I think that's one of the things that we're also really very proud of and pleased about too. But that
I'll
leads
make you
into a,
I'll make you feel younger one minute. I've been doing this for almost 30 years. And actually you actually you touched on a really interesting point. One of the values of straight through processing, whether you're doing it through e-invoicing, whether it's coming through capture, regardless, there's some great benefits to getting those high straight through processing rates. You mentioned taking early payment discounts, understanding supply chain finance. The treasurers will love an AP department if they can get those invoices processed quickly because they will have a better vision into their cash flow and their cash positions and be able to
yeah.
make those informed decisions on whether they should be borrowing money, paying off debt faster, taking early payment discounts, and if so, from who? Maybe doing intercompany borrowing. So having those, everyone's always worried about revenue and where's the revenue, where's the dollars coming? Are we selling a lot and getting that revenue in? Well, what's also going out? True cash position is so important to the Treasury Department and the Office of the CFO. And high straight through processing rates are the only way to give those people the proper visibility that they need.
That is a great point. And it's interesting as well because it kind of leads into the next topic, which is insights. One of the things that I've always discussed is all about the data. It's really all about the reports. He who has the reports, as I felt earlier in my career, he who has the most reports wins. But you can tell that at one point in my career, I was a middle manager who definitely lived and died by my reports. But it is it is somewhat true in any function. You really do need to understand your cash position, what's coming in, what's going out, and how really how money is flowing through the business and how you may need to move things around as well. And that's where I think the Tungsten Copilot can also really help too. So I know I can share with you a little bit about Tungsten Copilot, which is that it is an AI powered copilot that provides insights on the data. That data doesn't leave your environment, and it's really on the data that you're processing for your suppliers, but also about a little bit about how you're paying things. But maybe you can talk a little bit about ways that you've heard and maybe spoken about with some of our customers about how those insights have helped. I mean, you mentioned cash flow in the Office of the Treasury, but I mean, do you think that these go into any strategic decision making as well about maybe where we use suppliers or anything like that?
Well, it definitely does because with Copilot, it makes it so much easier for our customers to be able to understand where are they spending their money, what suppliers are delivering as promised, which where are they spending, the most with, the least with, and be able to compare and contrast suppliers. So building that supplier resiliency as well as building a good supplier network is important, but it costs a lot of money for organization to bring on new suppliers, and it costs a lot of money to have too many suppliers. So you have to find that happy balance in supply chain. None of us want to be back in 2020 when you couldn't, buy toilet paper off the shelves and everything was running out. Well, that's what winds up happening when you have if you're not paying your suppliers on time, if you're not being able to manage the process of how your invoices flow through and be able to take care of those suppliers, you wind up struggling to find key suppliers for your own products, your own development, your own supply chain, and that falls downstream to your customers. That impacts your revenue of your organization. So if you're not putting your product out fast enough, revenue starts to drop in the organization. So having these insights of who am I selling to, how much am I selling, how much are we taking advantage of early pay discounts, how much more can we negotiate now that we have high straight through processing rates, can we negotiate deeper discounts because we know we can pay faster, and how can we enhance and strengthen those supplier relationships?
Oh, no, I completely agree. And really, this all starts with straight through processing. This all starts with how fast do we get the data? How fast can we get that data into our systems? The last item that is on this particular slide that I'll just touch upon, we do have, some great AP workflows as well. And once again, it's really about getting that data as fast as possible to move through to your ERP and making sure that you've got insights all throughout the process. So that touchless processing goes, through the journey from the point of when you take the invoice from the supplier all the way through when you pay the invoice. I'm really excited about how Invoice Agility really kind of is really evolving into not only a place where our customers can not only experience straight through processing, but then gather the data, insight on those and that data a lot faster as well. So, the
Yeah.
one final thing that I'll actually just mention to those who are listening to this podcast is that this particular slide, along with the PDF that you see on the side, is able to be downloaded from our website. And I'm really pleased that you listened to this particular podcast. I'm excited that there's one more in this series of straight through processing, and that is how to apply complex business rules and really still achieve that straight through processing. And how can you actually, what expectations you can have. So I'm really excited about that one too. So Garry, anything that you'd like to add before we log off of this podcast?
No, again, our website has so much information. We've recently redesigned the entire site. So there's a tremendous amount of information out there about all the invoice agility solutions that are available. A lot of great case studies out there for some phenomenal customers and how they've achieved high straight-through processing rates, as well as really finding millions of dollars in early pay discounts and duplicate invoices they've been able to avoid. So a lot of phenomenal information and research, and I hope to talk to some of the listeners at some point. Since I support the entire Americas, I'd like to talk to some of the listeners in the coming weeks and months.
Well, thank you so much, Garry. And for those who are listening, I'm going to apologize for my dog barking in the background. This is definitely a true podcast, and I hope the listeners don't mind at all. But I do appreciate everybody, and thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to our next podcast in the series. Thanks, and have a great day.